bonsai enthusiast, welcome to Green Props, the Fire Chief Tuja, that's how you pronounce it. This is a dwarf variety that only gets about 5 feet tall, or 1.5 meters. It is a northern white cedar, but it doesn't look like the typical northern white cedar. When in full sun, it gets really impressive red foliage. I'm not sure if this is the red foliage or if it's just sick foliage in there, but kind of looks all right. I thought it was going to be more on the exterior. So yeah, maybe just the very tips there, there's a red hue. That's probably the healthy stuff. And then this orangish stuff on the interior is probably dying or dead. I repotted this one in the spring, and with this one as well, I didn't use good drainage mesh. I used weed mesh, I think it's called, just like the normal black mesh, but that's not good enough. So I'm going to repot this one again in the spring. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan is for this one. I think I'll start off by taking some of this grass out, de-weeding it, and I'll just take a look at the tree and try to decide. So I think what I had in mind was maybe removing this smaller part coming out sideways there, laterally, moving this section of the tree and focusing the growth over here on the bigger section of the trunk. It's tempting to try to rush things through the video, but you know, I do care about these trees and I want to make the right decision, so I'm going to take my time and just edit out the boring parts, I guess. Not sure if you could really call this a tree if it only gets 5 feet tall. Maybe it's classified as a shrub. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is. It is a cedar, which is a tree, but very dwarfed variety. Seeing as this probably isn't in the best health and might just be finally bouncing back from that transplant, the repotting, I don't know if it's a good idea to work too much on it, but I'm just going to pause the video a bit and think about this. Okay, sorry I'm a little low energy tonight, but fall's progressing and winter's on its way, so we have so much time to get these things filmed and document the progress for the end of 2023. So I took a look at this for 5 minutes there, thought about it a bit. I think I'm going to use the power of deduction to try to chip away at this. So I do think this one that cuts across probably won't keep it for the end design. I will use it as this one in here, I will use as a sacrificial branch. So I'll let it grow for at least this year and probably next as well. Just to thicken the trunk down here so that the taper looks nice. I could probably just leave all of it as it is, but to help me visualize the final design for the tree, I'm gonna take off most of the top part of the sacrificial branch, and I'll try to get it growing like further out, elongated, doing the opposite of what you would normally do, right? You want things nice and compact, but with this sacrificial branch, I'm gonna cut out a lot of this inner growth in here to try to push it out so it doesn't shade out the good foliage, which I want to keep. So I'll start off by doing that. This one out here, it's getting a little close to the good branch, which I'm not even sure I'm going to keep either. Maybe this one too. Take this whole part out. Now, I can always change my mind later on. I'm going to keep these new buds in here the ones that are closest to the trunk on this sacrificial limb, they'll still be there. So if I do choose eventually that it was a mistake, I want to keep this one, I can rebuild this, build it better actually. Off over here, this part's getting a little close to the good foliage, so I'll take that off. And that's already a lot better. Kind of gets it away from the good stuff so it doesn't shade it out. Okay, now it is actually making it easier to visualize. I think what's going to end up happening is the good side here that I'm going to keep splits into two. We got this part going left and this part going to your right and this part going to your left here. So I don't think I want both of them in the final structure. So I'm going to have to choose now which one I'm going to cut back so it focuses its growth on what I want to be the apex. I haven't decided which one I want yet. What I might do here, with this hanging foliage almost touching the ground, I think I'm going to cut off most of it anyway. Cut that off, and there's a fresh bud at the base of that, so that's coming out. It's already going to start looking more like a miniaturized tree now that that's out of the way. So a lot of this lower growth here, definitely hiding the trunk line and taking away from the aesthetic, but you know, probably just keep them for now so it thickens up everything beneath it. Pretty much like the Mayan capital here, a lot of sacrifices. Okay. There's a twiggy one that cuts back across here, growing in towards the other limb. I don't really want it. We'll see, I'll cut off the ends just to try to trigger some back budding because I might want some back budding there. Cut off some of the end parts on that. In fact, I think I'll just take that out. That thing's a bit. Often it's obvious what to do and it just comes to me right away, and other times I really have to think about it. And this is one of those occasions where the answer isn't obvious. If I had 10 more Thujas, I'd probably just chop one side off right away. I wouldn't think twice, but this is my only one, my only fire chief. Starting to think that this side's a bit nicer. I really do like how it cuts across the back here, but this part that does cut back across really bulges right here. It's got significant reverse taper, although it's still a very thin, small, young limb, so I'm sure that can even out with time. I think this is the side I'm gonna keep. Big decisions, big decisions. I think this probably is the side I'm going to keep, and I notice here there's this straight limb. Behind this hanging one here, there's this pretty thick straight limb, and it's a little too thick for the branch above it. The proportions are off for the trunk line here. It needs to be thinner, and it is just too straight. It doesn't look natural. So I think that's going to be the first big cut. I'm going to get rid of this part completely. Wow, I was just looking at the silhouette on the phone screen there of this thing. It actually looks pretty good from that side, doesn't it? Like just the whole thing, this side branch, you know, coming out sideways, that could be like a nice dominant branch. There's no reason it has to come out yet. Anyway, I think I'll get back to what I was doing because either way it's the game plan. So I'm gonna remove this straight one that's just a little too thick for the proportions. So here I go. I'm sure I'll regret all my decisions. I don't know if you can propagate these from cuttings. Does anyone know? That'd be great. I suppose I could just put in some water while I wait for the comments, or I could look it up, but it's easier just reading the comments. Okay, some cut paste on that. I see there's a little bud just beneath where I cut it. Don't want it to die back. Very nice. Okay. There's one more piece of grass there I forgot to remove. I'll take that out. weird one here that's coming back, like bending back in towards the trunk. I'm tired. I do see a lot of backbudding, which is pretty good. Like, I'm pumped about that. Makes me think I can prune this a little more aggressively. So I've chosen this section here as the trunk line. So this side, I'm gonna cut it way back, but I'm gonna leave the buds, you know, as far back to the trunk as I can, as close to the trunk as I can. Start off by doing that. I'll cut this piece out of the way, make it easier to see too. There we go. This whole side here is gonna get cut back just so I can focus energy on what I chose as the good side, but not cutting it so far back that I can't rebuild it if I change my mind. I know a lot of people do this really fast, you know, they've been doing it for so long, and so they don't even have to think about where they're cutting, just snip, 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 you know, but I'm still a beginner, so I gotta take my time. That's where the editing comes in. The pros, they don't really need to edit much because, you know, the video is so fast already, but if I didn't cut out so many sections, you'd be sitting there for a while. I'm gonna try to cut this back there, get some separation in between these. Probably cut the end completely. That's actually more than I expected to come off. I thought some of those needles were attached down here, but I guess not. That's fine though. Once again, I'm not sure if these red parts on the interior are dead, or if that's just the characteristic of the cultivar. Well, I got this piece here. It's shading out this lower growth there. I think that piece it's shading out would be a good place for a branch, so I'm going to cut this one back as far as I can. Tough decisions here. That wouldn't be a horrible place for a branch either. While I'm processing, take off this stump down here from one of the trunks that I removed last year, I think. It's died back completely, so I'll cut it back as far as I can. It does have a nice root coming out of it. Don't know if that's still going to be connected to the main trunk or not. Okay, so I'll put it back a little further. Oh. There we go. Oh, oops. I guess that root was still alive. Okay, well, not anymore. Put a little cut paste on it. One here. Okay, there's a few other branch stubs from either last year or this spring that I can remove now. They've died back, and I think it's safe to do that. So yeah, there's this one in here along the good trunk line, so I'll take that out. I don't know if you can see it, but cool. Flying. One's completely dried out and dead too, so there's this big one in here that I'm going to remove now. This one in here. Go for it. Maybe died back by now. Mosquitoes, always at the worst time. They know when you're occupied, that's for sure. There's a weird stub there that I didn't even notice until I cut out the other one. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. I can barely see what I'm doing. I think I'm going to cut back these lower ones, try to promote some back budding. Put them back to those fresh buds. I think this is growing right now in the fall, like it's actually going through a growth spurt. So I'm going to make sure it's nice and fertilized for the next little while. It's starting to get hard to see. Spotlight in my eyes and the sun going down. This won't end up being the final top of the tree. I'm sure it's all going to get cut off and I'm going to grow out something else as the top. But yeah, I think for now I'm just going to leave this as it is. I've redirected the energy into what I think will make it a nicer trunk line, and yeah, I cut back the other limbs so they don't take up as much energy. Focus the growth where I want it. But I've left buds on these other limbs still, so if I decide I made a mistake, you know, it's not too late to replan. Alright, sorry about the low energy video today, a little tired, but I'm rushing to get all these bonsai chores done and to get everything documented before winter comes. Alright, well, before we head out, go for a little helicopter ride. Looks alright, doesn't it? Well, thank you once again for joining me while I look at my bonsais. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I promise I'll have a little more energy for the next one. But let's give this a final spin. Thank you very much.